Coming at you with a spooky edition of the Achievement Hunter Inc. Month in Review, it is your hosts, Bojake Horseman and LeftArmOfExodia.
Instead of stacking horror films and candy piles this month, the server submitted 123 games completed, which totaled a staggering 7,827 hours. Imagine how many times we could have watched the Nightmare on Elm Street series back to back. Well, imagine no more, because we did the math for you. It's 559 marathon sessions of Freddy Krueger's Terror. I don't even want to envision how many bags of popcorn I'd need to make for that marathon.
For those uninitiated to this gamer coven we call home, every week the server puts up its best completion attempts and has a server-wide vote to determine which submission can earn the coveted title of Completion of the Week.
To start us off on Completion of the Week for the month of October, we had Zach with Final Fantasy XVI. When asked what's special about this game to you, Zach said that Final Fantasy XVI is probably one of the best action RPGs they've ever played. It's also probably the best Final Fantasy game they've ever played. When we asked what tip would you give to someone following in your footsteps, they said there's no missable achievements unless you accidentally sell materials to craft the best sword at the end of the game, so just don't sell any of your materials or really anything. You make enough money without having to sell your possessions. Make sure to do the side quests as they pop up, or else you'll just have a bunch to do at the end of the game. A lot of them can be kind of boring, so having to do a bunch at one time sounds horrible. And I, personally, would agree that does sound quite bad. Up next we had Strawberry Emma with Hollow Knight. And to give us her answers herself, here's Emma.
Completing Hollow Knight was extremely special for me for a few reasons, but the main one is just how difficult getting that last achievement really was. Completing the Pantheon of Hallownest and earning the Embrace the Void achievement took me around 80 hours, and there was over a year in between earning my second to last achievement and this one. The Pantheon of Hallownest is a boss rush with all 42 bosses in the game, including a secret boss at the end that is substantially harder than any other boss that Hollow Knight has to offer. That achievement is without a doubt the hardest achievement that I have ever earned. And I haven't even mentioned the rest of the challenges that come with completing this game, which include beating the game on Steel Soul mode. Steel Soul is a permadeath mode, meaning you cannot die a single time across your entire playthrough. It was a long and brutal grind, but it was so worth it. I would absolutely suggest trying to complete Hollow Knight if you're up for a very intense challenge. For anyone wanting to complete Hollow Knight, my main piece of advice is to spend a ton of time practicing the bosses in the Hall of Gods. If you try to practice for the Pantheon of Hallownest by attempting the Pantheon itself, you'll just end up bashing your head against a wall for hours with little to no progress. You should definitely be able to beat Nightmare King Grimm 9 times out of 10 before spending too much time trying to beat the Pantheon itself.
Next up we have Scrub with Dead by Daylight. When asked what's special about this completion, they said that this game's special because they've been playing since launch and they've been able to see how balanced it has become for both sides. It's still not a perfect match, but I still find ways to have fun with it. I always pick it up months later and find myself still enjoying the game. Even after completing the game, I'm going back to it on my days off and playing with my duo. When asked if there was a tip they'd give, they said this game requires a lot of patience, especially on the killer side. There will be a lot of games where you just get destroyed by a group of survivors. The best advice would just be to stay calm, and if you make a mistake, don't dwell on it. I had a lot of games where I couldn't do anything in the beginning, but was able to bring it back. And last but not least is Geza with Stardew Valley. When asked what's special about this completion, they said they got to play with some friends and it was an enjoyable experience. Kept them wanting more. It also introduced their friends to completing games together. When asked what's the special tip they'd give, they said play with friends with shared currency so you can delegate and separate tasks, making your game go by quicker.
I'm now going to give a shout out to all honourable mentions throughout the week of October for their submissions. This starts with myself, goes on to Monster, Danny Roll, Solar Knight TTV, Blubs, Gems, Mado 6SXT, Pancrasio, Aquatimo, Coke Goat, Sir Crab the West Side Gangster, Creedy, Curlitos, OK Coe, and finally the Unfunny Man. We're now going to cover our user spotlight. In this month, we spoke to Rim and asked him the following questions. Firstly, why do you hunt achievements? Rim answered,
I believe hunting achievements adds a unique goal to video games. Each achievement serves as a landmark you want to see on the grand tour of a certain game. Getting all the achievements ensures you covered all the stops, seeing all the game has to show.
Secondly, we asked what is your favourite game or genre of games to achievement hunt in?
I love platforms and niche indie games the most, and of course, games I can hunt with my friends in.
Penultimately, we asked what are you currently working on?
I'm working on a few games. Web Fishing, a cozy fishing game that takes inspiration from the likes of Animal Crossing, but calls for a huge grind to complete. Slay the Princess, an amazing game that has many branching endings, which just added a new free expansion called the Pristine Cut. And finally, Sonic X Shadow Generations, the newest Sonic game, which you'll hear more about in the next section.
And finally, we asked, are you excited for any upcoming game in particular?
So it actually already came out, but I can't wait to try Epic Mickey Rebrushed once I get it. I'm a huge fan of the original.
And now to talk about a new game on the scene, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. This game takes the legendary gameplay of the Budokai Tenkaichi series and raises it to whole new levels. You can become a super warrior and experience the earth-shaking, limit-breaking power of Dragon Ball battles in a 3D fighter. From fighting on the ground to the air, you can unleash the strength of over 180 fighters from the Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball GT, and select Dragon Ball movies. And guess what? They're all included in the base game. Each character comes with their own signature abilities, transformations, and techniques. This game starts at $69.99 and has 2 additional upgraded versions with some of the DLC available. Currently, there's 50 achievements with a median completion time of a little under 37 hours.
Sonic X Shadow Generations collects 2011's critically acclaimed Sonic Generations with an all-new Shadow Generations that runs parallel to the game in story and gameplay. Play as Shadow through various levels from his history, as well as an open-zone hub world known as White Space, inspired from Sonic's latest outing, Sonic Frontiers. Take control of Shadow's new Doom powers, special abilities that give him new ways to move around or defeat enemies. Plus, learn to use Chaos Control, an exclusive mechanic for Shadow that allows him to stop time. Take Shadow on a journey to confront his past as previously defeated foes, long-lost friends, and tragic memories come back to haunt him. The game starts at $49.99, but a digital deluxe version is available for $10 more. There are 40 achievements with a median completion time of 29 hours.
In the forecast of exciting deals to come through the Steam sales in the next month, we say goodbye to the Steam Screamfest on November 4th, so the Americans can get out and vote. The Cooking Fest kicks off a week later from November 11th to the 18th, and so help me if any of you forget the lamb sauce. Gordon Ramsay himself will not hesitate to kick you from this server. To close out November, the illustrious Autumn Sale will run from the 27th to December 4th, and it will be one of the cornerstone sale events of the year on Steam, so you better start putting savings aside because before you know it, the Christmas sale will be here.
Though there is no sheriff in town to turn in some metaphorical bounties to, we do still have 2 outstanding server bounties in I Am Bread and Tricky Towers. For any hunter bold enough to try and complete these games, pending you check out the rules for each game, you shall be rewarded. So head on over to the Bounty Board channel and let's see some rewards given out to the brave who dare try them out. Thanks again to Gems and Geza for your contributions with those games.
Last but not least, what are your hosts up to game-wise for this month? Bojake managed to finally slay another idler in Trailer Park Boys Greasy Money and has now lost direction outside of trying to get good at Dragon Ball Sparkling Zero. Myself, on the other hand, I've finished Koromon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist, and I'm looking at picking back up Baldur's Gate 3 and Fallout New Vegas. The latter was recently gifted to me by our own Curlitos.
Do you have any feedback for us? Want to see a new game talked about in the next video? Want to help curate a new section for us? Shoot us a message in the Achievement Hunter Inc. Discord and let's get to collaborating.
Until then, keep hunting, gamers.